All right, let me set the scene for you. My name's Hank, I'm 30 years old, and I've been busting my butt at this company for 7 years. For the last 5 of those years, I've been on this one team, which has 15 people, and we're a pretty close bunch VGJ or so I thought. There's this one guy, Sam, who's 33, and he joined our team around the same time I did. We've weathered quite a few storms together, especially during the pandemic. One day, during a Zoom call, Sam announces that he's gotten engaged. Fast forward to January, and Sam tells everyone that his wedding will be in September at a beautiful winery. About 5 months ago, everyone on the team starts getting their invites, VGJ, everyone except me. I wait for weeks thinking maybe mine got lost or something, but nope, nothing ever comes. Finally, I muster up the nerve to ask Sam about it. I walk up to him and say, "Hey Sam, did my invite get lost in the mail or something?" He looks at me all solemn and says, "Hank, I'm really sorry, but we had some spacing issues and I just couldn't fit you in. I hope you understand and don't take it personally. You'll still get some wedding favors and a piece of cake." He even asks me to keep it to myself and not make a big deal out of it. I didn't know what to say. I just stood there like an idiot and finally mumbled, "Okay," and walked away. I felt like crap. I hate being left out, and this was worse because everyone else on the team was invited except me. And honestly, I love weddings. They're usually a blast. So I kept it to myself, but I was fuming inside. The day of the wedding comes around, and it goes off without a hitch. 3 weeks ago, my entire team had a fantastic time. They couldn't stop talking about how beautiful the ceremony was, how great the food and party were, and how everyone got to take home a dozen fresh apple cider donuts. Me? I never got any cake or favors, by the way. Come Monday, back at work, my team member Jenna asks where I was because apparently Sam told everyone I was sick and couldn't make it. I was beyond confused and then straight up pissed. I told her I wasn't even invited. She looked shocked and asked me to confirm it. I said, "Yep, I wasn't invited." Well, Jenna must have spread the word because soon enough, 5 other people ask me if it's true that I wasn't invited. I tell them it's true. Today's Sam's first day back from his honeymoon, and apparently word got back to him that I'd let the cat out of the bag. He storms up to me in the break room, clearly upset, and says, "Hank, why'd you go and tell Jenna you weren't invited? It wasn't a big deal you missed the wedding." I snap back, "How would you like to be excluded from something everyone else gets to go to?" We go back and forth for a bit before Sam storms off. I'm boiling mad at this point. My project manager even comes up to me to check if I'm all right, because she heard I wasn't invited. I didn't want this to blow up, so I just say, "Yeah, I'm fine." But my other team members start coming up to me saying Sam should have invited me and how it was wrong that he didn't. Look, I get that it was Sam's wedding, and he has the right to invite who he wants, but I also have the right to be upset about not being invited, right? So Reddit, am I the jerk for telling people I wasn't invited to the wedding and being upset about it? All right, let's dive into this mess of a story. My name's Jack, and I've been through some serious crap in my life. It all started when I was in college, playing Division I NCAA basketball. I was traveling all the time, different cities and states every week. My whole life revolved around basketball back then. I had this girlfriend, Rachel. We met at the athletic facility where all the university teams trained. Rachel was a star on the track team, and she caught my eye instantly. We started talking at one of the parties, exchanged numbers, and before I knew it, we were flirting like crazy, sending texts back and forth all day. She was on a break from her boyfriend, a popular football player, but eventually, she left him to be with me. That should have been a big red flag, but I was too blinded by my ego to see it. Our relationship progressed quickly. In about 8 months, we were officially together. Rachel had her own dorm room, but she was basically living at my apartment near campus. She stayed there even when I was out of town, which was 3 or 4 days a week during the season. We were madly in love, or so I thought. When the season ended, I planned 2 huge back-to-back parties. One for my teammate's birthday on Friday and the other for my birthday on Saturday. Rachel and I got hammered on Friday night and ended up having unprotected sex. Rachel had this period tracking app on her phone, and she always marked down when we had unprotected sex, so she'd know if she should worry about missing her period. That night, we were so drunk that I remembered she needed to mark it in her app. It was 5 a.m., and we were both exhausted. I woke her up and asked her to put it in the calendar, but she was so out of it that she fell back asleep with her phone unlocked. Now here's where it gets interesting. Throughout our entire relationship, Rachel went through my phone and computer constantly because she was insanely insecure. I never cared because I didn't have anything to hide. But that night, with her phone in my hand, I decided to add the unprotected sex note myself. As I navigated the app, I noticed all these little markers on different days. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened one to see what they meant. Red markers were for her period, and black markers were for unprotected sex. My heart sank when I saw the app littered with black markers, like a damn checkerboard. I opened each black marker and my heart sank further with every one. These weren't just random days. They were days when I was out of town, playing basketball. I was shaking as I read the notes. She had the names of the guys she slept with written down. 4 different guys throughout our relationship, and it seemed like some months. There were almost a dozen of these black markers. One of the guys was her ex, the one she left to be with me. She was still cheating on me with him. Another guy seemed to be a regular too, but the last 2 looked like one-time flings. I realized that these black markers only showed the times she had unprotected sex, so who knows how many more there were. I sobered up instantly. I checked her texts and calls but didn't find anything. Then I remembered that Android phones had a folder for deleted texts. She had thousands of deleted texts and calls. I couldn't see the contents, but I could see the numbers. I quickly did a Facebook search and confirmed my worst fears. There it was, a detailed ledger of every time she cheated on me. No text messages, no friends tipping me off, no catching her in the act TVJ, just a well-documented history of her infidelity. The ex she left for me, some random guy, and 2 other dudes she probably hooked up with once. That was the moment my world crumbled. I had been played for a fool. Rachel was nothing but a lying, cheating snake, and I had been too blind to see it. Looking back, all the signs were there, but I ignored them because I thought she'd never cheat on me. Boy, was I wrong. Discovered the perfect escape from reality. As the night progressed, I drowned my sorrows in booze and drugs, trying to forget the betrayal and the hurt. Sitting there with 2 girls on the arms of my chair, I put on a happy face. But inside, I was falling apart. The next morning, I woke up in my apartment, feeling the aftermath of my bender. My head was pounding, and my heart still felt shattered. Lisa had bombarded my phone with calls and texts, begging for a chance to explain. I ignored them all. I couldn't stand to hear her voice or see her face. Bono and I went out for breakfast, trying to piece together the night before. He made it clear that I needed to move on and forget about Lisa. "You deserve better, Jack," he said. "She's not worth your tears or your time." His words were harsh, but they were exactly what I needed to hear. As we sat there, I thought about how I had been faithful to Lisa all this time, turning down chances to cheat, believing she was the one. My loyalty felt like a joke now. If I had known she was sleeping around, I would have done the same and saved myself the heartache. The anger and bitterness were eating me alive, and I knew I needed to find a way to release them. After breakfast, Bono and I went back to the apartment. We sat down, and I told him everything I had discovered. Bono's face darkened as he listened. "We need to make her pay," he said, a determined look in his eyes. I agreed, feeling the rage bubbling up inside me again. I wasn't going to let Lisa get away with this without facing some consequences. Bono suggested we throw another party, but this time it would be a trap. "Invite all her friends," he said. "Make it seem like everything is fine. Then expose her for the cheater she is." The idea was cruel, but it felt right. I wanted her to feel the same humiliation and betrayal I was feeling. We spent the next few days planning the party. I made sure to invite everyone Lisa knew, making it sound like I had forgiven her and we were back together. Lisa was ecstatic when she heard about the party, thinking I had softened and was giving her another chance. Little did she know, this was the beginning of her downfall. The night of the party arrived and people started pouring into my apartment. Lisa showed up looking stunning, with a big smile on her face. She greeted everyone, acting like everything was perfect. I played along, but inside I was seething. Bono and I had set up a projector in the living room, where we planned to show a slideshow of memories. As the party went on, I kept my distance from Lisa, mingling with guests and making sure everything was set for the big reveal. Finally, it was time. I called everyone into the living room, saying I had a special surprise for Lisa. She looked puzzled but excited. As the lights dimmed, I started the slideshow. At first, it was just pictures of us together, happy moments from our relationship. Lisa was smiling, tears in her eyes. Then, the slides changed. Screenshots from her period tracking app appeared, with all the black markers and names of the guys she had cheated with. Gasps filled the room, and Lisa of JJ Tim's face turned white. She tried to grab my arm, pleading for me to stop, but I pulled away. "This is the real Lisa," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "She's been cheating on me with all these guys while pretending to be the perfect girlfriend." Now everyone knows the truth. The room erupted into chaos. Some people started shouting at Lisa, while others just looked on in shock. Lisa broke down, crying and begging for forgiveness, but no one was listening. Her friends were disgusted, distancing themselves from her immediately. It was clear that her reputation was in tatters. I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction watching her crumble. She had put me through hell, and now she was getting a taste of her own medicine. Bono stood by my side, looking proud. "You did good, Jack," he said, patting my back. But as the night wore on, the satisfaction started to fade. The reality of what I had done began to sink in. I had humiliated Lisa in front of everyone, but it didn't make me feel any better. The hurt and betrayal were still there, gnawing at me. I realized that revenge wasn't the answer. It didn't heal the pain. The next few weeks were a blur. Lisa moved out of my apartment, and I cut off all contact with her. I focused on my basketball and tried to keep myself busy. Bono stayed by my side, helping me through the tough times. One day I decided to delete all the pictures and messages from Lisa. It was time to let go of the past and move forward. I started going to counseling, talking about my feelings and trying to understand why I was so affected by Lisa's betrayal. Counseling helped me a lot. I learned that I needed to forgive Lisa, not for her sake, but for mine. Holding on to the anger and bitterness was only hurting me. I started to see that her actions were a reflection of her own issues, not a statement about my worth. Slowly, I began to find peace. I focused on my recovery, both from the breakup and from my unhealthy coping mechanisms. I started to rebuild my self-esteem and trust in others. Months later, I was in a much better place. I had cut out the toxic people from my life and surrounded myself with supportive friends and family. I was no longer using substances to escape my pain. Instead, I was facing my emotions head-on and dealing with them in healthy ways. I met someone new, a girl named Emily, who was kind, understanding, and genuine. We took things slow, and for the first time, I felt like I could trust someone again. Emily knew about my past and accepted me for who I was, flaws and all. Looking back, I realized that the experience with Lisa taught me a lot about myself and what I wanted in a relationship. I learned the importance of trust, communication, and self-respect. I also understood that everyone makes mistakes, and it's how we respond to them that defines us. I'm not proud of how I handled the situation with Lisa, but I'm grateful for the lessons it taught me. I'm stronger and wiser now, ready to move forward and build a better future. And that's my story. It's messy, painful, and far from perfect, but it's mine. And I've learned that no matter how tough things get, there's always a way to heal and grow. Coach pulled me aside to ask what the hell was going on. I played dumb, of course, pretending I had no idea about the chaos I had sparked. Inside, though, I was reveling in it. The more pain and drama I caused, the more vindicated I felt. Lisa and her friends had no idea what hit them. My apartment became a veritable trophy room of their humiliation. I had bras, panties, jewelry, and even a track team sweater with one of their names on it. Each item was a badge of my twisted victory. I wanted Lisa to know that every piece belonged to someone she knew, someone close to her. The irony was delicious and cruel. The real kicker came when one of Lisa's teammates' boyfriends found out about me and his girlfriend. It set off a chain reaction of drama and heartbreak that rippled through their entire social circle. Their betrayal spilled into the open, causing rifts and conflicts that made my heart sing with dark joy. The coach had to step in, trying to manage the fallout, but it was too late. The damage was done. Seeing the turmoil I had caused gave me a sense of power I had never felt before. It was a heady mix of vindication and bitterness. Lisa had been so certain she could control me, deceive me, but now she was the one facing the consequences of her actions. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. That same week, the university had plastered massive posters of me all over campus. Promoting the next game, They were impossible to miss. Lisa and her friends had to walk past my face on every building, a constant reminder of their downfall. I felt like a king surveying his kingdom, a dictator reveling in his conquests. It was glorious and pathetic all at the same time. The athletics PR team had no idea about the scandal brewing beneath the surface. To them, I was just a star player, a beacon of school spirit. But to those in the know, I was the guy who had taken revenge to an extreme level. The whispers and rumors swirled, and I loved every second of it. Despite my outward calm, the confrontation with my coach was inevitable. He pulled me aside after practice one day, a concerned look on his face. "Jack, what's going on? I've been hearing some disturbing things about you and the track team." I feigned ignorance, putting on my best innocent face. "I don't know what you mean, coach. I'm just focusing on the game." He sighed, clearly not buying it. "Look, whatever you're doing, it needs to stop. It's causing problems for the team, for the school. We can't afford this kind of distraction." I nodded, promising to keep my head down. But inside, I knew I wasn't done. I had more plans, more ways to make Lisa and her friends pay for what they had done to me. As the weeks went on, the tension escalated. The drama among the track team continued to unfold, each new revelation adding fuel to the fire. Lisa was at the center of it all, trying to navigate the chaos while dealing with the constant reminders of my presence. The posters, the gossip, the whispered conversations, VJ. It was all too much for her. Finally, the last straw came. Lisa showed up at my apartment one night, tears streaming down her face. She begged me to stop, to leave her alone. "Why are you doing this to me, Jack? Haven't you done enough?" I looked at her, feeling a mix of satisfaction and pity. "You brought this on yourself, Lisa. You cheated on me, lied to me. Now you're facing the consequences." She sobbed, sinking to her knees. "Please, just stop. I'm sorry. I'll do anything." But I was beyond forgiveness. The damage was done, and I had no intention of letting her off the hook. "It's too late for apologies, Lisa. You made your bed, now lie in it." In the weeks that followed, the fallout from my revenge continued to reverberate. Lisa's social standing was in ruins, her friendship shattered. The track team was in disarray, their performances suffering as a result of the internal conflicts. I watched from the sidelines, feeling a perverse sense of accomplishment. But as the dust settled, I began to reflect on my actions. The satisfaction I had felt was fleeting, replaced by a growing sense of emptiness. I had become the monster I despised, hurting others to ease my own pain. It was a hollow victory, one that left me questioning my own morals and values. One night, as I sat alone in my apartment, surrounded by the trophies of my vengeance, I felt a wave of regret wash over me. What had I become? Was this really who I wanted to be? The realization hit me hard. I needed to change, to find a way to heal without causing more harm. I started by getting rid of the items I had collected, returning them anonymously to their owners. It was a small step, but it felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I reached out to a counselor, seeking help to navigate my emotions and find a healthier way to cope. It wasn't VGJTMTT easy, but over time I began to rebuild my life. I focused on my basketball, my studies, and my friendships. I learned to forgive myself for the mistakes I had made and to let go of the anger and bitterness that had consumed me. I never spoke to Lisa again, but I heard through the grapevine that she eventually moved on, finding her own path to redemption. As for me, I found peace in the knowledge that I had grown from the experience, becoming stronger and wiser. In the end, my revenge had been a double-edged sword, cutting both ways, but it also taught me valuable lessons about forgiveness, healing, and the true meaning of strength. And for that, I am grateful. My coach literally laughed at Lisa's complaints, telling her that it seemed like an internal issue and that I hadn't done anything illegal or violated any school policies. This infuriated the women's track coach, whose team had fallen apart and whose national ranking was plummeting. The track coach even got into trouble for tearing down some of the posters of me around campus in a fit of rage. I loved every moment of it. I continued to fuel the fire by posting photos on Facebook and Instagram of me smiling and being happy with other girls. Underneath it all, though, I was bitter and deeply lost in my new, vengeful mindset. I'd forgotten the kind-hearted, naive kid I used to be. I was so full of self-pity and hatred for my old self for allowing some girl to emasculate me. I played the cool guy attitude in front of everyone, hiding my pain and bitterness. There was even a girl on another sports team who claimed she was pregnant with my child after I pretended to like her, only to move on as soon as we slept together. It turned out she wasn't pregnant, but the rumors added to the chaos and further tormented Lisa. I left a trail of broken relationships and deceit behind me, feeling no remorse because I believed everyone was equally at fault. As girls became wary of me and I ran out of potential targets, I began to pursue girls who weren't even friends or teammates of Lisa, but were simply around her in daily life, including her classmates and even her family. I flirted with her married sister, almost succeeding until their father stepped in. The family ostracized Lisa's sister, spreading more turmoil within their family. I wanted Lisa to know I was everywhere, constantly reminding her of her mistake. In my eyes, she had unleashed this fury upon herself by betraying me. Lisa's mental health deteriorated. She had to take an extended medical leave from school due to depression and suicidal thoughts, requiring medication and losing a significant amount of weight. The more she hurt, the better I felt. I had inflicted more damage on her than she had on me, but I had become addicted to the feeling of power and revenge, neglecting my own emotional healing. Weeks passed with Lisa's texts and calls going unanswered until she showed up at my apartment one night to collect some of her belongings. I refused to let her in, stating I had company. Instead, I gathered all the items I had collected from various girls, along with her belongings, and put them into black trash bags. I took the bags to her parents' house and called her dad, telling him I left her stuff on the porch. 15 minutes after I got off the phone with her dad, Lisa called, sobbing uncontrollably. She begged me to stop my tyranny. I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction hearing her in such distress. I told her, "Why were there other guys in our relationship? You mixed them into our relationship like I mixed other girls' stuff into yours." It's a perfect little ironic metaphor. I was absurdly proud of myself at the time, but in hindsight, it was just another facepalm moment. I later found out from one of Lisa's friends that the items in those trash bags had devastated her. Each piece was a reminder of her betrayal and the destruction I had caused in her life. The friend confided that Lisa had become a shell of her former self, deeply affected by the chaos I had unleashed. Looking back now, I see how awful I had become. My quest for revenge had turned me into a monster, leaving a trail of pain and broken relationships behind me. At the time, I was blinded by my anger and desire for retribution, not realizing the long-term damage I was causing to myself and others. Revenge had given me a temporary sense of power, but it had also hollowed me out, stripping away the person I once was. I realize now that processing my emotions and finding a way to move on would have been far more beneficial than the path of destruction I chose. While it was a harsh lesson, it taught me the importance of handling betrayal and pain in healthier ways. Revenge might feel satisfying in the moment, but it ultimately leaves you empty and regretful. The path to healing lies in forgiveness and self-reflection, not in perpetuating cycles of hurt and destruction. Months went by, and Lisa eventually returned to school from her medical leave. We bumped into each other at the physical therapy center in our athlete facility building. It had been a while since I had done anything to hurt her, and I was still hungry for more vengeance. I decided to pretend like I wanted to rekindle things with her. She was cautious at first, but eventually bit the bait. After about a week, we started to mend our relationship, though it was more like a hostage situation. I forbade her from having any male friends, going out to party with her girlfriends, and demanded full access to all her accounts and her location at all times. Meanwhile, I wasn't faithful at all. This was my plan all along. Eventually, she found out about me sleeping with a girl in one of her classes, leading to a nasty breakup. I told her that she now knew what it felt like to be me when we last dated. Yet again, I felt triumphant. After this, we didn't speak for years. I graduated from university and moved to Central America. About a year after I moved, and 2 years since we last spoke, she messaged me. By this time, my life had become that of a real degenerate. I was doing copious amounts of substances daily, and about 75% of my life was involved in some sort of illegal or nefarious activities. Still, I blamed her for my descent into this dark lifestyle, taking no responsibility for my own choices and bitter, immoral nature. I had NVDJ Tiamat had another relationship since her, and always had trouble trusting women. When she messaged me, I saw it as yet another opportunity to hurt her. We began talking as friends and even got flirty over Facebook Messenger, despite being many countries, states, and an ocean apart. I planned a trip back to my old university to visit friends, but I told her it was because I had accepted a new job and was moving back to the city. We decided to meet up when I got back to see if there was anything worth saving between us. I put on my best acting hat and tried to seem like I had put our past behind us. When I arrived, we met at a coffee shop and spent the entire night together. From her point of view, it looked like we had moved past our differences and could actually work things out. However, I wasn't moving back. I was only staying for 2 nights, which she didn't know. After hooking up a few times and spending 2 days together, I packed my things without mentioning anything to her and got back on a plane to Central America. I blocked her on all social media and communication outlets. This time, I could only fantasize about what happened to her when I disappeared after she thought I had moved back and was ready to give our relationship another try. However, it wasn't as satisfying as my previous plots of revenge. My substance habit and lifestyle only got worse. 3 years later, I was hospitalized and almost died because of my substance abuse. I had never been sober for a full 24 hours after that day. Looking back, as much pain as I might have caused Lisa with my vengeful actions, I think I honestly did more harm to myself. My actions led me down a dark path where I had no morals anymore. Though I spent the entirety of this story detailing how I kept getting revenge on my ex for cheating on me, as satisfying as it was at the time, I wish I had spent an equal amount of energy healing myself from the incident. If anyone reading this is experiencing the pain that comes with betrayal, I urge you to focus on healing rather than seeking revenge. Revenge might give you a temporary sense of satisfaction, but it ultimately leaves you empty and regretful, just as it did to me. The path to true healing lies in forgiveness and self-reflection, not in perpetuating cycles of hurt and destruction. After experiencing the intense and destructive journey of seeking revenge on Lisa, I finally realized that true healing comes from within. Revenge may provide temporary satisfaction, but it doesn't mend the broken pieces of your heart or restore your spirit. Over time, I learned to focus on myself, heal my wounds, and rebuild my life. I want to share my story with the hope that others can learn from my mistakes and choose a healthier path. Years after the chaos with Lisa, I found myself entangled in another relationship that ended in betrayal. This time, however, I chose a different path. I decided to walk away and focus on healing rather than seeking revenge. This decision was one of the hardest yet most rewarding choices I ever made. It marked the beginning of my journey towards sobriety and personal growth. Getting sober was a challenging but transformative experience. It took 4 years of hard work, support from friends, mentors, and therapists, and a deep commitment to change. During this time, I reflected on my past actions, the person I had become, and the kind-hearted person I once was. I realized that holding on to anger and revenge had only harmed me more than anyone else. Today, I am married to a wonderful woman who is also sober, and we share a dream life together. I have a fulfilling job, a loving relationship, and a sense of peace that I never thought possible. This new chapter of my life is built on the foundations of trust, honesty, and mutual respect. My experiences have taught me the importance of addressing pain and moving forward in a healthy way. One of the most common questions I've received is whether I have apologized to Lisa. The answer is no, not yet. However, I plan to do so. Apologizing to her is part of a long list of amends I have been making over the years. I have discussed this with my sponsor, therapist, and mentors, and we all agree it is the right thing to do. I intend to reach out to her when I return to her city next year. Reflecting on my past actions and sharing my story has been a cathartic experience. While some people might judge my decisions or offer hindsight advice, the purpose of sharing my story is to illustrate the dangers of letting revenge consume you. It's about acknowledging my past, learning from it, and showing how it's possible to change and find peace. Since sharing my story, I've been astonished by the number of men who reached out to me with their own stories of infidelity and substance abuse. Helping others deal with their trauma in healthier ways has been incredibly fulfilling. It reminds me that we are not alone in our struggles, and that there is always hope for a better future. I'm considering writing another post about a more recent experience where I chose a healthier path after being cheated on again. This time I didn't seek revenge but walked away and focused on my own healing. The incident was even more traumatic than what happened with Lisa, yet I managed to handle it in a way that didn't VDA compromise my integrity or sobriety. If you VGTMR dealing with the pain of betrayal, I urge you to focus on healing rather than revenge. It VGTM's a difficult journey, but it VJTM's one that leads to true peace and fulfillment. Learn from my mistakes, take responsibility for your own healing, and strive to build a better future for yourself. Thank you for reading my story. I hope it helps you find the strength to choose a healthier path. After years of bitterness and self-destructive behavior, I finally decided to turn my life around. Leaving behind my substance abuse and reckless lifestyle in Central America, I returned to the United States with a renewed commitment to finding happiness. I moved in with an old friend and started rebuilding my life, including giving dating another chance. This decision led me to meet Kate, a woman who would deeply impact my journey towards healing and ultimately lead to another significant lesson in my life. A few months after moving back to the USA, I met Kate through a dating app. She was 25, and I was 23. Kate had vibrant burgundy red hair and a 3-year-old son who quickly bonded with me. Kate and I had both come out of difficult periods, marked by substance abuse and painful past relationships. Her abusive marriage and my tumultuous history with Lisa gave us a unique understanding of each other DJTM's emotional states. We approached our relationship slowly, supporting each other as we navigated our shared fears of commitment and trust issues. As months passed, Kate and I grew closer. Her son even started calling me Dad, solidifying my role in his life. We moved in together, bought a car, and began the process of purchasing a house. I had found a stable job at a finance firm, and Kate worked at a nightclub. Our lives seemed to be on a positive trajectory, and we were planning to get married and have a child together. We felt we had successfully moved past our substance addictions and emotional turmoil. Our relationship was built on trust. We never felt the need to invade each other's privacy, and we knew each other's passwords and login information. This transparency fostered a sense of security and openness between us. Typically, I would wake up early to walk Kate from the parking lot to our apartment after her late-night shifts at the nightclub, especially since her walk home was sketchy. One morning, Kate told me she would be late because she had to drop a friend off. She mentioned this only minutes before she was supposed to arrive home. Given that it usually took her about 35 minutes to get home, I found it odd that she told me so last minute. I knew where her friend lived, and the timing just didn't add up. Suspicion gnawed at me, so I decided to check Kate's phone for the first time. My heart sank as I discovered messages between her and another man. They were explicit and clearly indicated that she had been cheating on me. The realization that she had been unfaithful was a devastating blow, echoing the pain I felt with Lisa, but intensified by the deep bond I had formed with Kate and her son. I confronted Kate about the messages, and she confessed. The betrayal shattered me, but this time, I chose a different path than I had with Lisa. Instead of seeking revenge, I decided to walk away. I moved out of our apartment, leaving behind the life we had built together. It was an incredibly painful decision, but I knew it was the only way to protect myself and continue on my path to recovery. Walking away from Kate was one of the hardest things I ever did, but it was also a turning point. It reaffirmed my commitment to sobriety and personal growth. Despite the heartbreak, I managed to stay sober and focused on healing. Over time, I learned to trust again and eventually met my now wife, with whom I have built a healthy, loving relationship. If you're dealing with the pain of betrayal, I urge you to focus on healing rather than revenge. It's a difficult journey, but it leads to true peace and fulfillment. Learn from my mistakes, take responsibility for your own healing, and strive to build a better future for yourself. Thank you for reading my story. I hope it helps you find the strength to choose a healthier path. Initially, Kate and I had a solid relationship built on mutual understanding and trust. However, things began to shift in a troubling direction. One morning, Kate informed me she would be late because she had to drop off a friend, but her arrival was significantly delayed. When she finally got home, she looked off, almost like she was on coke or Molly. I confronted her, but she dismissed my concerns with an excuse about her friend VDJTM's car breaking down. Despite my past experiences, I pushed down my suspicions, convincing myself that Kate, who had been through similar experiences of betrayal, wouldn't do the same to me. My primary concern was that she might be using hard substances again. Over time, incidents like this started occurring more frequently. Initially, it was once a month, but eventually, it became almost weekly. There were several nights when I was nearly certain she was high on something, and during one argument, she admitted to using a bit of coke to stay awake during her shift. This admission, though minimal, was troubling. Kate began coming home later and later, often as late as 5, 6, or even 7 a.m. on some mornings, despite the club closing much earlier. She always had excuses: car troubles, hanging out with friends, or grabbing a bite to eat after work. The situation reached a breaking point one morning when KatevJTM's behavior and excuses became even more suspicious. She told me she was on her way home at 6 a.m., yet by 6:30, she still hadn't arrived. I went outside to wait for her in the heavy snow of a blizzard, but another hour passed without any word from her. When I finally heard from her, she claimed she was almost home, yet it wasn't until 9:30 a.m. that she pulled into the parking lot. By this time, I had been standing outside for hours, covered in snow and worried sick. I had to call out from work because I couldn't leave her son home alone. When Kate finally arrived, she looked terrified and began rambling nervously, offering a series of inconsistent excuses. She got pulled over but was let go without a ticket. The car ran out of gas. She had to stay with a friend who was having a mental breakdown. She even tried to blame me for some of these issues, claiming I hadn't gotten the car's registration done on time. Her stories didn't add up, and her physical state, dilated pupils and teeth grinding VDJ, indicated she was likely on cocaine. Despite my anger and exhaustion, I temporarily let it go, trying to distract myself with video games. However, my mind raced with questions. Was she only doing cocaine? Was she doing other drugs? And with whom? Was she cheating? My main concern was her potential substance abuse, given our past struggles with drugs. While I was mildly worried about potential infidelity, my primary concern remained KatevJTM's substance use. We had both worked hard to leave behind our pasts with drugs, limiting ourselves to weed and the occasional drink. We weren't strictly sober, but we had set boundaries to avoid slipping back into old habits. The suspicion and mistrust that began to cloud our relationship were draining, and I struggled to reconcile the person Kate had become with the woman I had fallen in love with. Despite the mounting evidence of Kate's possible relapse and dishonesty, I continued to hope that things would improve. I wanted to believe that the connection we had built was strong enough to withstand these challenges. However, the repeated incidents and her increasingly erratic behavior made it clear that something had to change. The path ahead was uncertain, and I knew I had to make some difficult decisions for my well-being and for the future we had envisioned together. The discovery that Kate had been lying to me about the club's closing times shattered my trust and brought back all the trauma from my past relationship with Lisa. I was at my breaking point, and I needed undeniable proof to confront her. The next morning, after drinking heavily the previous night to numb the pain, I decided to search her purse for any evidence. In her purse, I found a small bag of white powder and a pack of rolling papers, confirming my worst fears. My heart sank as I realized that Kate had not only been lying to me about her whereabouts, but was also likely using drugs again. I felt completely betrayed and heartbroken, especially considering how far we both had come from our past struggles with substances. When Kate woke up, I showed her the bag of white powder and asked her to explain. She initially tried to deny it, but eventually broke down and admitted she had been using cocaine occasionally. She insisted it was just to help her get through her shifts at the club and swore she wasn't doing anything else wrong. However, the trust between us was already severely damaged. Despite her apologies and promises to stop, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. The constant lies and the return to substances were too much for me to handle. Our relationship, which had once been a source of healing and mutual support, now felt toxic and unsustainable. I realized that I needed help to deal with my own trauma and the current situation. I reached out to my sponsor from the 12-step program and my therapist. They both advised me to prioritize my own well-being and suggested that I might need to step away from the relationship if Kate wasn't willing to seek help for her substance use and mend the broken trust. After much deliberation and soul-searching, I decided to have a serious conversation with Kate about our future. I told her that I couldn't continue the relationship unless she sought help for her substance use and committed to rebuilding trust. She agreed to attend counseling and a support group for substance abuse. Kate's willingness to seek help was a step in the right direction, but it was only the beginning of a long journey. We both started attending couples therapy to address the trust issues and worked on rebuilding our relationship. It was a challenging process, and there were many ups and downs. Through therapy and support from friends and family, I learned to set healthy boundaries and prioritize my mental health. I focused on my own recovery and well-being, realizing that I couldn't control Kate's actions, but I could control how I responded to them. Looking back, the experience with Kate taught me valuable lessons about trust, communication, and self-care. While the journey was painful, it ultimately led to personal growth and a deeper understanding of what I needed in a relationship. If anyone reading this is dealing with similar issues, I hope my story encourages you to seek help, set boundaries, and prioritize your own well-being. Healing is a journey, and it's important to take care of yourself along the way. Me again. I wanted to believe her, but deep down I knew it would take more than just promises to rebuild trust. Over the next few weeks, Kate made an effort to stay clean and transparent about her whereabouts. We attended couples therapy together and individually sought counseling for our own issues. Despite the progress, I struggled to let go of the resentment and fear that had built up inside me. As much as I wanted to salvage our relationship, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. The trust had been shattered, and I found myself constantly questioning Kate's actions. Eventually, I realized that staying in the relationship was only prolonging the pain for both of us. With a heavy heart, I made the difficult decision to end things with Kate. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was the right choice for both of us. We parted ways amicably, understanding that we needed time apart to heal and grow individually. In the months that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life and moving forward. I threw myself into my work, hobbies, and friendships, finding solace in the support of loved ones. It wasn't easy, but with time, the wounds began to heal, and I found a sense of peace. Looking back, I realized that the experience with Kate was a painful but necessary lesson. It taught me the importance of setting boundaries, trusting my instincts, and prioritizing my own well-being. While the journey was tumultuous, it ultimately led me to a place of self-discovery and growth. Today, I'm grateful for the lessons learned and the strength gained from overcoming adversity. I've emerged from the experience stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. And though the scars may remain, they serve as a reminder of the challenges I've overcome and the person I've become. To anyone reading this who may be struggling with similar challenges, I offer this advice. Trust your instincts, prioritize your well-being, and never be afraid to seek help when needed. Healing is a journey, but with courage, resilience, and support, you can overcome even the darkest of times. Confront her directly when she came inside. I sent her a message asking where she was and if she was okay. She replied almost immediately, saying she was just out with some friends and would explain everything when she got home. My heart sank. I knew she was lying, but I needed to see it with my own eyes. I waited until she came inside, pretending everything was normal. When she walked through the door, I could see the guilt written all over her face. I confronted her about the men I saw in our car, and at first she tried to deny it. But when she realized I wasn't buying her lies, she broke down and admitted everything. She had been cheating on me with multiple men, using drugs, and lying about her whereabouts for months. I was devastated. The woman I loved had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I couldn't even comprehend the depth of her deception. In that moment, I knew our relationship was over for good. I packed my bags and left without looking back. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but I knew I couldn't stay with someone who had so little respect for me and our relationship. Leaving Kate was the best decision I ever made. It wasn't easy, and it took time to heal from the pain of betrayal, but I eventually found peace. I focused on rebuilding my life and moving forward without her. In the months that followed, I worked on myself, seeking therapy and support from loved ones. I learned to trust my instincts and set boundaries to protect myself from future heartbreak. Looking back, I see now that the signs were there all along, but I chose to ignore them. I allowed myself to be blinded by love, hoping that things would change. But sometimes, the hardest lesson to learn is knowing when to walk away. To anyone reading this who may be going through a similar situation, I offer this advice. Trust yourself and prioritize your own well-being. Don't ignore the signs of betrayal, and don't be afraid to walk away from a toxic relationship. You deserve better. To him before I leave. Tears welled up in my eyes as I hugged him tightly, knowing I had to protect him from the chaos unfolding in our home. I stood up and walked out of the bedroom, leaving Kate sleeping peacefully behind me. I didn't want to wake her. I didn't want to face her. I didn't want to face anything anymore. I grabbed my keys and walked out of the apartment, leaving behind everything I had ever known. I got into my car and drove, not knowing where I was going or what I was going to do. All I knew was that I couldn't stay there any longer. As I drove, my mind raced with thoughts of what had just happened. I had come so close to doing something unspeakable, something that would have destroyed not only Kate, but also myself and her innocent son. I realized that I couldn't let my rage and pain consume me. I couldn't let Kate's betrayal define who I was. I needed to find a way to move forward, to find peace and healing for myself, and for the sake of the boy who had come to see me as his father. I pulled over to the side of the road and sat there, alone with my thoughts. And in that moment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let this destroy me. I was going to find a way to rebuild my life, to find happiness and purpose once again. It wouldn't be easy, and the road ahead would be long and difficult. But I knew that I had to try, for my own sake and for the sake of the ones I loved. And so, with a heavy heart and a determined spirit, I started down that road, knowing that no matter what lay ahead, I would face it with courage and resilience. And maybe, just maybe, I would find the peace and happiness I so desperately longed for. But for now, all I could do was keep driving, keep moving forward, 1 mile at a time. And with each passing mile, I felt a little bit lighter, a little bit freer, as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And as the sun began to rise on the horizon, casting its warm golden light over the world, I knew that no matter what happened next, I would be okay. Because I was still here, still alive, still fighting. And as long as I had that, I had hope. And with hope in my heart, I drove on into the dawn of a new day, ready to face whatever the future held, knowing that no matter what, I would never give up. To town, staying in cheap motels, or crashing on friends' couches. I couldn't bear the thought of going back to my old life, to the apartment that was once filled with love and laughter but now tainted by betrayal and heartbreak. I spiraled further into substance abuse, using drugs to numb the pain and escape the reality of what had happened. Each day was a blur of highs and lows, of searching for something, anything, to fill the void inside me. But no matter how hard I tried to run from my past, it always caught up with me. Memories of Kate and her son haunted my dreams, reminding me of the family I had lost, the love that had turned to ashes. Eventually, I hit rock bottom. I found myself alone in a dingy motel room, surrounded by empty bottles and discarded needles. I realized that I couldn't keep living like this, that I needed to find a way out of the darkness that had consumed me. I reached out for help, seeking therapy and support groups to help me overcome my addiction and heal from the trauma I had endured. It wasn't easy, and there were many setbacks along the way, but slowly and gradually, I began to rebuild my life. I found solace in helping others who were struggling, volunteering at shelters and addiction recovery centers. It gave me purpose, a reason to keep fighting, even on the darkest days. And through it all, I never forgot the love I had for Kate's son, my stepson. I prayed for his happiness and well-being, hoping that he would find the love and stability he deserved. As time passed, the wounds began to heal, and I started to see glimpses of light at the end of the tunnel. I made peace with my past, accepting that some things were beyond my control, but that I could choose how to move forward. Today, I am grateful for the journey that brought me to where I am now. I have found a sense of inner peace and contentment, knowing that I have survived the storm and emerged stronger than before. And though the scars of the past will always remain, they serve as a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit, of the capacity to endure even the greatest of hardships. I may never forget the pain of betrayal, but I refuse to let it define me. I am a survivor, a warrior, and I will continue to walk my path with courage and grace, knowing that I am capable of overcoming whatever challenges may come my way. It's truly remarkable how much you've overcome and how far you've come since those dark days. Your journey is a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of resilience. Choosing to take control of your life, to seek help, and to work towards a better future is incredibly inspiring. It takes immense courage to confront your demons, to address your addiction, and to rebuild your life from the ground up. Your decision to focus on self-improvement, to pursue sobriety, and to find purpose and fulfillment in your new career and relationships is commendable. It's also incredibly insightful that you recognize the futility of seeking revenge and instead chose to channel your energy into positive growth and transformation. By letting go of anger and resentment, you freed yourself from the chains of the past and opened yourself up to a brighter future. Your story serves as a beacon of hope for anyone who may be struggling with addiction, trauma, or feelings of despair. It's a powerful reminder that no matter how dire the circumstances may seem, there is always hope for a better tomorrow. Thank you for sharing your journey with such honesty and vulnerability. Your resilience and perseverance are truly inspiring, and I wish you continued happiness, success, and fulfillment in all your endeavors. You've proven that even in the darkest of times, there is always a glimmer of light waiting to guide us home.